Have you ever replayed a moment in your head 1,000 times, wishing you'd acted differently? Do your past mistakes feel like chains, keeping you from becoming who you know you could be? What if I told you that regret isn't meant to imprison you, but to teach you? Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic minds in history, didn't live a life free of failure. But he lived a life free of regret, because he knew that what matters most is what we choose to do now. If you're ready to stop living in the shadow of yesterday and step into the power of today, hit that subscribe button. This is your invitation to grow. Let's begin. 1. Regret, a silent thief. Regret often comes dressed as wisdom, offering itself as a helpful voice in the aftermath of our mistakes. It whispers in our ears phrases like, "You should have known better," or "If only you had tried harder." At first glance, it seems like it's there to teach us, to make us better. But look closer, and you'll find that regret rarely leads to growth unless we are very intentional with how we handle it. Most of the time, regret doesn't fix the past. It steals the present. To the Stoics, and particularly to Marcus Aurelius, regret was not a productive emotion. The Roman emperor and philosopher, who penned his thoughts in what would become the Meditations, understood the futility of ruminating on events that had already happened and could not be changed. Regret, in his view, was like sitting in a burning house and refusing to get up because you're too ashamed of having started the fire. The flames are real. The danger is present. But clinging to guilt instead of acting does nothing but prolong your suffering. This metaphor captures the essence of regret. It is a fixation on what has already occurred. It's an emotional feedback loop that keeps us anchored to the past. You replay events over and over, believing that by mentally punishing yourself, you'll somehow earn redemption. But that isn't how healing works. You cannot suffer your way into wisdom. The Stoics ask a more useful question. What can I learn from this? That question changes everything. It shifts the emotional current from self-blame to self-inquiry. Instead of letting regret dominate your thoughts, you can reframe it as a signpost, a signal that you've become aware of something important. Perhaps a boundary was crossed. Perhaps you betrayed your values. Maybe you acted impulsively or selfishly. Whatever the case, the pain of regret can become a teacher if you let it. In that sense, regret is not the enemy. It becomes a catalyst for awareness. But the key is not to live inside it. You must walk through it, not set up camp there. Every mistake you regret can be transformed into a lesson, provided you approach it with honesty and intention. The Stoics didn't ask for perfection, they asked for discipline and growth. Regret can be one of life's most powerful teachers, but only if you take notes. If you allow it to linger unexamined, it becomes corrosive. It leaks into your identity. You begin to see yourself not as someone who made a mistake, but as a mistake. That's the silent theft of regret. It slowly strips away your present self in the name of past errors. The Stoic solution is both simple and profound. Take responsibility, extract the lesson, and move forward. You don't ignore the past. You examine it with clarity. You hold yourself accountable without condemning yourself to permanent suffering. Regret becomes a moment of awakening, not a life sentence. In practical terms, this means journaling about your regrets with the goal of identifying patterns. It means talking to a mentor, a friend, or even a therapist about how you can grow from your experiences. It means learning to say, I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. And also, now I know better. Ultimately, regret loses its power when you stop seeing it as a punishment and start using it as a pivot point. Life moves forward. You should too. 2. Forgiveness. Not a feeling, a choice. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood concepts in human psychology and philosophy. Many people assume that forgiveness must be accompanied by a warm, fuzzy feeling, a release of pain, a sudden wave of peace. But for the Stoics, forgiveness was not a mood. It was not something you waited around for. Forgiveness was, and is, a decision. A rational, clear-minded choice to stop poisoning your present with the toxins of the past. Forgiveness doesn't always feel good. It's not sentimental. It's not about excusing wrong behavior or denying your hurt. It's about saying, I will not let what happened define my mindset, my day, or my identity any longer. In that sense, it is a form of personal liberation. The I. Stoics believed deeply in the importance of choice. Epictetus reminded his students that we do not control external events, we only control how we respond. Forgiveness is an application of that principle. You don't forgive because someone deserves it. You forgive because you deserve peace. Many people think they need to feel ready to forgive. But feelings are notoriously unreliable guides. You may never feel like forgiving. You may carry resentment for years, waiting for the pain to lessen. But ironically, it's the very act of forgiving that often reduces the pain. Forgiveness is not an erasure of memory. It's a refusal to be emotionally shackled to the memory. Whether you are forgiving yourself or someone else, the principle is the same. You reclaim control. That control begins with the recognition that reliving pain doesn't create justice, it simply extends your suffering. Forgiveness becomes a boundary, a line drawn in the emotional sand that says, this far, no further. This is particularly important when it comes to self-forgiveness. Many people find it easier to forgive others than themselves. They hold on to guilt like a moral talisman, believing it proves they care. But prolonged guilt often turns into self-sabotage. The Stoics would argue that you do not need permission from the universe to forgive yourself. You only need the courage to accept what has happened and move on with integrity. Forgiveness is also not a passive act. It often requires work. It might involve writing a letter you never send, confronting your feelings head-on, or committing to change a behavior you regret. Forgiveness is active. It says, I acknowledge what happened and I choose to move forward. It does not mean reconciliation is always possible or even desirable, but it does mean emotional freedom is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. That is Stoic forgiveness in action. Not vengeance, not bitterness, but the strength to be better, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. In forgiving, you reclaim agency. You remind yourself that your mental clarity matters more than your anger. You stop giving regret the final word. You become, in the deepest Stoic sense, free. 3. Pain as a teacher, not a prison. Pain is unavoidable. Everyone will face moments of loss, betrayal, failure, and disappointment. But how we interpret that pain, how we respond to it, makes all the difference. The Stoics saw pain not as something to be feared or avoided, but as a powerful teacher. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. This quote reveals a deep truth. Pain is shaped more by our perception than by the event itself. It's not the experience alone that wounds us. It's the meaning we assign to it. When something painful happens, our instinct is often to resist. We want to avoid discomfort, deny it, numb it, or pretend it doesn't matter. But the Stoics would say that this resistance is the real problem. Pain is not the enemy. Resistance to pain is. When you try to escape pain instead of facing it, you miss its message. Pain can reveal your values. It shows you what truly matters. You grieve a lost relationship because love mattered. You regret a failure because integrity mattered. These emotions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of investment. They prove that you cared, but instead of letting pain close us off, we can use it as a compass. Every failure becomes a mirror, showing us where we went wrong and what we can do differently. Every hurt becomes an invitation to grow stronger, more resilient, and more aware. Stoicism teaches us to lean into this discomfort with courage, not to dramatize it, not to wallow in it, but to observe it, understand it, and let it inform our path forward. Pain in this light is constructive. It refines us. It is through painful experiences that character is forged. Just as muscles are strengthened through resistance, the soul is strengthened through adversity. The Stoics didn't run from hardship. They walked directly into it, knowing that every trial held the potential for transformation. This doesn't mean you pretend pain is pleasant. It means you don't let it imprison you. You don't allow it to define your future or dim your spirit. You face it squarely and ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" If you can do that, then pain loses its ability to paralyze you. It becomes part of your toolkit, a reference point, a foundation for wisdom. So don't fear pain, understand it, don't curse it, learn from it, let it shape you, not break you. 4. You are what you do, not what you regret. Who are you? That's not a trick question, it's the question. But far too often people answer it with a backward glance. I'm someone who failed. I'm someone who hurt others. Or, I'm someone who missed my chance. They define themselves by the shadows of yesterday. But Stoicism offers a sharper mirror, one not fogged by regret, not clouded by nostalgia. In that mirror, your reflection is not what you've done, but what you're doing. You are not your past. You are your present actions. The Stoics teach that our identity is written not in the ink of memory, but in the act of now. Marcus Aurelius didn't define himself by the mistakes of his youth or the victories of his campaigns. He didn't sit on the throne pondering who he had been. He got to work being who he aimed to become. Daily, hourly, moment by moment. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." These weren't just words. They were his compass. Your past may have shaped you, but it doesn't confine you. That's the trap of regret. It convinces you that your worst moments are your final definition. But those regrets are only echoes, not shackles. The Stoics believed that regret, unless transmuted into action, serves no purpose. It immobilizes. It keeps you staring at a closed door while the present passes you by. Consider this. When you're driving, the rearview mirror has a function, but it's not meant to steer your journey. Focus too long on it and you'll crash. Life works the same way. The past can inform your path, but it cannot determine your direction unless you allow it. Discipline, integrity, and courage. These are not qualities you either have or don't. They're not trophies from the past. They're behaviors, practices, and they only exist in the present. You may regret not being brave yesterday. Fine. But are you acting bravely today? You may wish you were more disciplined in the past. That's irrelevant now. Are you choosing discipline this morning, this hour, this minute? Because that's where your identity is forged, in the fire of the now. Stoicism calls for daily action. Regret is passive. It's memory. It's rumination. It's inert. But action is alive. Action is self-creation. When you choose to do something different, get up early, tell the truth, hold your tongue when angry, you are choosing the kind of person you are. The past has no say. That is the core of Stoic resilience. The ability to say, I am not who I was, I am who I choose to be now. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Mistakes are not disqualifiers. They're the friction. What matters is what you do after the mistake. Do you repeat it? Do you let shame paralyze you? Or do you get up, brush off the dirt, and do something better? Identity is not about being perfect. It's about being committed. Ask yourself, am I letting the past define me? Or am I choosing to become someone I admire? That's not a theoretical question. It's practical. If you're still beating yourself up over a conversation you mishandled, a job you didn't take, or a person you hurt, what are you doing with that regret? Is it fueling you to act more wisely now, or is it just keeping you frozen? Many people use regret as an identity badge. This is who I am, they say, as if it's carved in stone. But Stoicism offers a chisel. It says, carve. Again, create anew. The only thing set in stone is death. Until then, you're a work in progress. And here's the irony. Many of the people you admire were shaped not by a spotless past, but by how they responded to their worst moments. They turned regret into resolve. They didn't let mistakes define them. They let them refine them. So what defines you isn't the betrayal, the missed opportunity, the failure. What defines you is whether you learn, adapt, and act differently going forward. Your legacy is built from what you do now, not what you wish you hadn't done. Don't let regret become your narrative. Let action write your story. Because ultimately, you are not what happened to you. You are not the version of yourself you once were. You are not your regret. You are what you do today, right now, in this very breath. 5. Forward motion, the antidote to regret. Regret is a stagnant emotion. It festers in stillness. The longer you sit in it, the more power it accumulates. The Stoics understood this psychological truth long before modern science could explain it. Forward motion, any motion, is a remedy, not just for progress, but for healing. Action isn't a mere distraction from regret, it's the antidote. When you take a step, even a small one, you send a message to your brain, to your body, and to your soul. I am not finished. I am not stuck. I am not the sum of my mistakes. I am still moving. And that movement, imperfect, halting, and unglamorous as it may be, is everything. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." There is no promise that the path will be easy or that the destination will be immediate. But in taking even the first step, you become a different person than the one who remains idle. Why is action so powerful? Because it provides clarity. It gives you a direction, even when you don't have a map. When you're consumed by regret, your thoughts tend to loop. You replay the same scene in your head over and over. It's paralyzing. But take a single action, even something simple like journaling, going for a walk, calling someone you trust, and suddenly the loop breaks. New possibilities emerge. Regret thrives in a vacuum. It loves idle time and emotional inaction. But the moment you engage with the world, through creation, through service, through any form of effort, you start to drain its power. You stop ruminating and start participating. Stoicism values progress over perfection. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he wasn't aiming to be a perfect man, but a better one. Growth doesn't require you to leap. It asks only that you lean, that you reach, that you try. The smallest habit, making your bed, reading a paragraph, resisting a destructive impulse, becomes a quiet yet powerful declaration. I will not remain where I am. That's how transformation happens. Not through dramatic changes or overnight reinventions, but through consistent, grounded motion. Each day you act with intention, you move the needle, and those small shifts accumulate. They shape character. They build resilience. They create a sense of self that cannot be uprooted by the ghosts of regret. Stoicism calls us to clarity. It asks us to choose principles over comfort. The easy road is to wallow in guilt or wish things had gone differently. The harder and more rewarding path is to take responsibility and act according to your values, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially then, you don't need a 10-step plan. You need one step, then another. You don't need to have everything figured out. You need only to do the next right thing. This isn't naive optimism. It's grounded realism. It's the Stoic way. In the words of Seneca, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. If you feel paralyzed by your past, dare to move. Dare to take a single action. That alone can begin to shatter the walls regret has built around you. In time, the fog will lift. The regrets won't vanish, but they'll lose their grip. Because every act of discipline, every moment of integrity, every step toward your better self becomes louder than the voices of doubt and shame. You become a person in motion, and motion creates identity. So don't wait for clarity before you act. Act, and clarity will follow. Let go of the illusion that you need permission to move forward. You already have everything you need. You are not the mistake. You are not the regret. You are the step you take after. That is the Stoic path. Not to wish the past away, but to walk forward despite it, again and again, until regret is no longer a weight, but a memory outpaced by growth. Declare your new beginning. The past can't be rewritten, but the present is still in your hands. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Your regret does not get to define you unless you let it. So today, choose to begin again. Not because the past disappears, but because you've decided it won't own you. No regrets, only forward. Subscribe for more Stoic wisdom, and remember, you are never as stuck as you think. The way forward begins right now.